What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Always Compete Seahawks podcast. I am Sam. That is Mike. And to start, we're going to talk about Clint Hurt in this video, and it's going to seem really late.
Yeah.
And that's because we did a video talking about Clint Hurt and Ed Donatel
Yes.
like a week ago.
Yes.
And the file got corrupted, and we couldn't post it.
Yes.
So
that's probably my bad, guys. I'll take the blame for that one.
But at the end of the day, it might end up benefiting us. We'll get onto that later.
Right.
I feel like we need to talk about the big. This video essentially is just going to be talking about everything that's going on with the Seahawks coaches. As you know, we've had like a mini coaching overhaul, kind of an entire staff overhaul. We've bring in new DC, new DC,
right.
bringing in new known assistant coaches. We are firing coaches who have very good pedigrees with Pete, which is really interesting. Yep. So I just say we get right into it, and let's talk about the first biggest one. Let's talk about Clint Hurt being promoted to DC. It's all but official because, you know, me and Rapport reported it, Bob Condata reported it, you know.
Yeah.
We're there. It's happening. Clint Hurt, D-line and assistant head coach being promoted to defensive coordinator. Mike, thoughts on this?
Like we talked about last episode, I really like the hire. He's a guy that, you know, a lot of the players really, really like. He's familiar with the system. He's familiar with the guys. He's an in-house hire, which a lot of times can be really good, I think. And I think just the big thing is that the players respect him. The players are going to, you know, attach to him. So I like the hire. I like being promoted. I like him being promoted. So I wouldn't say it's like spectacular, but I also think there could have been a lot worse things we could have done. So I like it. I like it for the most part.
Yeah, Clint Hurt. I mean, man can step on the field and play football if he wants to. If you look
our
at the
deep
picture,
tackle depth is lacking a little bit, and he might need a.
I'm not gonna lie. He's kind of all upper body, but his upper body, like if you have Skips from Regular Show, he's kind of built like Skips from Regular Show. If you
bro,
if you get that reference.
What if like dead ass he just like calls like a goal line package, like they're at like the 1 yard line, he's like, all right, corner, you out, and then he goes on a helmet. He subs himself in at like nose guard. That would be so funny.
I mean, he could do it.
Honestly, yeah.
He could do it. So so I mean, if you had to grade this hire, it's kind of an interesting hire because I don't think somebody has ever been promoted from in-house after the DC was fired. There's been people that were promoted in-house after the DC left to a new job, or they retired, or they resigned for whatever. But since the DC was fired, I couldn't find anybody. So, you know, give us a grade.
I'll give this a C+. And I think the reason that the grade is what it is because, yeah, he's relatively unproven. You know what I mean? We don't really know what we're getting. And when you fire your defense coordinator, ideally, like you said, you know, you want to go out and you want to go get a guy, a big name guy, maybe a head coach that just got fired that wants to bounce back as a coordinator. But I think another point that we're going to get into a little bit later is he's also a disciple of Vic Fangio.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that for sure.
So I think that is really good. And that's going to lead into other things that we're going to talk about today. So I'll give it a C+. I think it could work out really well, but I'm not expecting, you know, the Seahawks to be a top 5 defense next year by any means.
All right, so let's talk about the big money news from today. I was in period 7 English.
That's how you know it was big. When you remember what period you're in. When you
today, I walked in early in the class. I'm on my phone, and I looked away from my phone, and you text me, let's effing go. And I'm like, why did he send me that? Because I have Twitter notifications off for everybody, and you sent a tweet from me in Rapport. So while I was looking away, the notification came through, and it went away because I wasn't looking.
Yep.
But Sean Desai has been hired as the assistant head coach, the associate head coach - defense.
Mm-hmm.
Also / passing game coordinator. At least that's what Bob Condata has reported from the Seattle Times. Yep. Mike, this is a home run.
I absolutely love this guy. For those of you who don't know, I'm also a Bears fan. I live here in Illinois. I watch every Bears game every Sunday. To see the things that he was able to do with the Bears defense last year, it blew me away. And I was very upset as a half Bears fan that they didn't bring him back. But now that he's going to my other favorite team, I mean, it worked out great for me, to be honest. But I love Sean Desai. He's young. He's so intelligent. Last year was his first year as a defensive coordinator, and I believe the Bears were the top. I think they were 6th in total defense.
They were 6th in yards allowed per game. But
Yeah,
I mean,
and
if
and if,
yeah,
and if you look at that defense, honestly, there's
Robert
not
Quinn,
Robert
I
Quinn.
mean, had 18 and a half sacks. The
Robert
man
Quinn
was
had 18 and a half
unbelievable.
sacks. Khalil Mack had a great year until before he got hurt. Jalen Johnson really emerged as a shutdown corner. The safeties, Gibson and Jackson, both played really well. So just looking at what he did, he's so bright, he's so creative. He comes from that Vic Fangio, coaching tree. I love Sean Desai. I think this is a home run hire.
This is a hell of a hire.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when Bob Condon reported when we got Clint Hurt that despite the fact that we interviewed Sean Desai, Pete Carroll was going to try really hard to get him in as an assistant head coach. And that was kind of tough to believe because he had just interviewed for the Raiders DC job.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders hire Patrick Graham from the Giants, who is their DC, which, by the way, if you're a neutral fan and you're looking for my opinion, I think it's a hell of a hire. Yeah. So because the Giants just lost their DC, they call up Desai. They're like, hey, come interview for us. Desai interviews. Wink Martindale from the Ravens, who got fired, gets the job.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, all right, well, that sucks. But then, the Vikings are calling. The Vikings want him now. And so he goes over to Minnesota, and he's one of the 3 finalists for the job. And out of nowhere, another guy comes in and gets the job. We're going to talk about said other guy later on in the video. But Desai's open. But then it's reported he might be joining the Vikings as an assistant head coach.
Yeah, it was crazy carousel.
And it seemed like it was implausible that we were going to get Sean Desai. Today, we get the news. He's coming in. Great with safeties, which I imagine must appeal to Quandre Diggs, considering not just he coached safeties that make a lot of money. Or the Bears coach safeties that make a lot of money. Deshaun Gibson got a huge contract from Jacksonville, and then he got traded, right? Is that how it worked?
Yes. And then I think 3 years ago, Eddie Jackson signed a pretty beefy extension.
Jackson got a beefy extension.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, I think you're mentioning Quandre, which I think is totally, I agree with. I think a big reason they wanted to bring in Desai is because they want a guy who's going to be able to use Jamal Adams in creative ways. They basically need somebody to unlock Jamal Adams. Ken Norton really just couldn't do it. I don't think he knew how to use him. With Ken, it was either you blitz all the time or you never blitz. There wasn't a good mix. There wasn't a good he wasn't put in good positions by our coaches, right? Sean Desai has been brought in to do that with Jamal, to do that with Quandre, who have very different skill sets, but are both absolute weapons on defense. So not to mention, Sean Desai is I would say he's really good with the secondary. I'd say that's probably his strength. Our secondary has been lackluster these last few years. If we could shore that up, if we can get DJ Reed, Sidney Jones, Trey Brown when he comes back, all looking good, man, this team will be dangerous. This team will be very, very dangerous. So can't wait to see what he does there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're both going to give this an A for a hire.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think every Seahawks fan who knows who Sean Desai would give this an A. I don't think there's really much debate.
And Pete went out and sold this job hard. From Ian Rappaport goes out and he literally said on broadcast today, reporting about it, he said Pete Carroll literally did some college recruiting to get Sean Desai to the Seahawks.
By the way, I know, in the middle of the year and maybe the end of the year a little bit, we were kind of shitting on Pete. But he has done a good job this offseason. He's
done a good job realizing that change needs to be made. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about not only defensive change, which has been very obvious, but offensive change as well, which we saw with another move today.
This whole situation started with him making the decision to fire Ken Norton, his buddy, his guy, right?
That's his friend. They've coached on the Seahawks staff on 2 separate occasions. Mm-hmm. So
I mean, that was a big problem with Pete, is that he doesn't fire his guys. He fired Ken Norton Jr. and change needed to be made. Went out, promoted Clint Hurt, obviously, and then got Sean Desai, brought him in. Absolutely great moves so far with the coaching staff's hire. So, I mean, we're gonna talk about another one here. Obviously,
the hell of a move. Carl Scott, name that to many Seahawks fans was kind of an unknown. It was a question mark, but it was reported by multiple sources that Carl Scott is going to be heading to the Seahawks in some role on their coaching staff. We don't really know what that role is yet. However, it's rumored that it's going to be secondary coach from what I've heard. This is a guy who coached at Alabama for
Mhm.
3 years under Nick Saban, I believe, as their was he
was
their
the
defensive
special.
coordinator
He
or something like
no,
that?
no, he wasn't the coordinator. He was, I believe, he was the secondary coach.
Yeah.
I believe
Either
that's what he
way,
was. Yeah,
I mean, when you coach under Nick Saban, that's a that's a name,
yeah.
right? I mean, and we can kind of look at this. I'm looking at if you look up Carl Scott Seahawks, the first headline is from Fan Name, which is from Sports Illustrated. Pete Carroll hits home runs, adding Sean Desai and Carl Scott. Carl Scott is a name.
Yep.
Carl Scott is a name, and he's a guy who's very, very highly respected.
Yes.
So just a little bit background on his resume. Was a graduate assistant at Delta State University. Moves on to Tusculum College as the defensive backs coach. Goes Southeastern Louisiana as a linebackers coach. Becomes DC at Southeastern Louisiana. Becomes the D-backs coach at Louisiana Tech. Becomes the D-backs coach at Texas Tech, and then is the D-backs coach for Alabama for 3 years, where he coached guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, Patrick Surtain, guys like that. Guys who
Trayvon Diggs. Don't forget about Trayvon Diggs.
Guys who went on to become top draft picks, Pro Bowlers, very highly regarded names. Goes to the Vikings to become the cornerbacks coach, where it doesn't really work out. They bring in a new guy. He gets kind of kicked out the door, and he's brought in to coach.
Then again, I mean, who did the Vikings really have at corner?
Yeah,
like, they never have much corner talent. Old ass Patrick Peterson was probably their best corner last year, you know? So, I mean, I don't really blame him for not getting it done very well in Minnesota. But, I mean, look at his resume other than that. I mean, just his resume at Alabama alone is, like, intriguing, you know? It's very good.
It's very intriguing. It's very, very intriguing. If I go back and look at the Wikipedia and I see who he coached that like 2020 Alabama year, he coached Trayvon Diggs, he coached Xavier McKinney, two guys who went on to, of course, be big names in the draft. So we're talking about some serious guys that
absolutely.
Credibility is all I'm saying. This guy is known for his complex package. He brings I think he orders defense. Very interesting, very new stuff for Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, as you know, is a cover 3 guy. He doesn't really F around with anything else, but it seems like he's going to be bringing some modernized things. Once again, 36 years old. Seahawks have gone for a big youth movement this offseason. Clint Hurt is 42. Sean Desai is 38. And by the way, Sean Desai is one of the youngest associate head coaches in the NFL. That's usually a guy that you want to bring in who's experienced, who's had a real time in the league.
Yeah,
that shows how much Pete Carroll, A, wanted him, and B, believes in him. To put him in that role right now,
because that was the Pete Carroll formula, right? Was hire the old, veteran coach to be his assistant. Ken Norton obviously was a guy who has been around forever, playing the league.
What for reference? The offensive associate coach is Carl Scott, who's 73 years old. Damn. So, for reference, it's kind of a. How it works. Carl Scott was the guy in Houston last year, if you remember that, as an assistant, who was like Pete's friend. He's Pete's buddy. So,
really glad. Again, just that infusion of youth, the kind of breaking the mold of the Pete Carroll stereotypes. I think those are all really, really encouraging signs, because I think me and you had the same fear where it was like, yeah, we're going to hire old guys who are going to run his system the way he wants to do it, and our defense really isn't going to see change, right? But now when you bring in these young guys who are gifted minds in terms of defensive prowess, I think it's such an encouraging sign. And it's if nothing else, our defense will become unpredictable and will be harder to figure out. Like, that's like the bare minimum. Right. So, and I think even that's a win, if nothing else,
Yeah. Carl Scott kind of beginning to mold this defense together, and Pete Carroll kind of putting together this defense is clearly different. And that's the big thing. Touching on another difference here, Mike Solari, in a big surprise move today, was fired late for a coach firing. I'm going to be honest. For a team that did not make the playoffs, this is what, maybe a month-ish after their last game? Even later than that?
Well, yeah,
and they just fired their O-line coach. And this is presumably because of Andy Dickerson, who will, per reports, be promoted to O-line coach. He was the O-line coach with the Rams for a few years when Shane Waldron brought him over. Or no, I think he was an assistant O-line coach.
I think he was like assistant O-line, like tight ends or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Shane Waldron brings him over to kind of, bring him in as a run game coordinator, where he did a pretty fine job. And from what I understand, I don't have sources. So I say from what I understand, I mean, from what I'm seeing through reports.
From what Russell Wilson told me via text today.
Yeah, from what Pete Carroll texted me about earlier today, when we kind of have discussions, we kind of we chill out. I mean, we're not bros, but we kind of we just vibe together,
Yeah.
But from what I heard, this is because Pete Carroll really, really likes Andy Dickerson, and it's not so much they didn't like what Mike Solari did. It's the sense that Andy Dickerson was reportedly being offered the O-line job from Minnesota, where Kevin O'Connell, who was the offensive coordinator in LA, has that connection.
Right.
Like we did with the run game last year, Seattle, Rashad Penny basically become 2,000-yard Adrian Peterson over again. Right. And he liked that. He liked that, to say the least. So,
by the way, was that an intentional Kirk Cousins? You'll like that?
Hey. No,
are you just that good? You didn't even notice it?
It just comes to mind. It's just
off
natural.
the dome. He's just
it's off the dome,
killing it. Yeah, no, I mean, really like it. Really like the fact that we decided to promote him to offensive line coach. Like you said, I think the clearest example is the resurgence of Rashad Penny over the last quarter of the year. If we can, and please, dear Lord, let us re-sign Rashad Penny, because I am the biggest Rashad Penny fan. I think he can do what he started to do, the last quarter of the year. Because obviously last year was his first year. It takes some time to get adjusted. Rashad Penny was in and out. Chris Carson, there was in the middle of the year, we didn't really know who our running back was going to be. If we have Rashad Penny, we have Andy as the offensive line coach, we can get back to running the ball the way that we were doing. And honestly, I think if we could do that, paired with our new coaches on defense and paired with a hopefully fully healthy finger from Russell Wilson, I mean, this team could be very, very dangerous. And I don't think they're getting the respect they deserve, to be completely honest. Not to jump too far ahead, but I'm just saying, I think we could be a very dangerous team.
They can be very dangerous. Looking at this report here, or at least the article from the official Seahawks PR, it's a very short article. Seahawks parted ways with offensive line coach Mike Solari. Spent the past 4 years in that role, and was also with the team from 2008 to 2009 as an offensive line coach. Now, this is a quote from Pete Carroll, and this is what I find really interesting. And we kind of mentioned change. Noticeable change is the difference here. And listen to this quote from Pete Carroll. This is a little statement that he left. Mike and I agreed that parting was right for our continued offensive transition. Mike is a fantastic coach and a great person, and I am forever grateful for his service to the Seahawks. Offensive transition. Now, those who understand what Andy Dickerson represents and what Mike Solari represents, Andy Dickerson is a modern coach. He's a younger guy. Once again,
how old is Andy? Probably like 40, I would guess.
He's probably in his 40s. He's a younger dude. I do understand that. I can look it up now. But he's Andy Dickerson is.
You just type faster than me.
I have to find it.
Yeah, I just looked it up too. By the way, also speaking of guys that could sub themselves into packages. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
Hey.
I mean, just look at the afro, man. Just look at this afro and tell me
he's got a great afro.
Just tell me that don't scream offensive line coach.
I mean, listen, Mike Solari is an old-fashioned, by definition, coach.
Yeah.
I want the big boys who are going to put their head down and just run forward.
He's a type of coach that's like sleds. Just do sleds all day. Sleds. Push some sleds.
Sleds. Andy Dickerson may be interested in mixing some things up, getting some more agile linemen, some guys that can pull, some guys that can kind of are a better blend of both. And as we know, the Rams have had a really talented line, even with some switching over that they've had there. They've had guys like Andrew Whitworth, Rob Havenstein, guys that have been studs there. And you're also talking about guys like Austin Corbett, who kind of went from being average to solidifying themselves in a role on that Rams team and becoming a notable name.
Right. What about a guy like Andrew Whitworth? I mean, Andrew Whitworth, I thought he was dead to rights when he left Cincinnati, and he's literally, I think he was all pro this year. Like, just amazing.
He's great. He's going to play in the Super Bowl.
Anyway, another thing I think that this means, and the reason I think that quote specifically was so important is because what me and you were saying all year last year, and it felt like for games this happened, but it wasn't like 3, 4, 5 a season in a row. We got to let Shane Waldron run this offense, right? You felt at times that there was a lot of interference from Pete, and it was like, don't do that, don't do this, let's do this, let's do this instead. The fact that not only we promoted Shane's guy, which is Andy, that's his guy, right? They both came from the Rams.
Yeah.
Promoted his guy, fired Pete's guy. Pete fired his guy. I think this is a sign that he's going to let Shane Waldron control more of the offense. I think Pete's going to be more hands off. Shane is going to be able to call his offense with his style of, offensive line with like Andy. I think, again, this is a really, really good sign for Pete, basically just giving him the keys to the car and saying, you know what, you handle that.
It's change, man. I'm just happy that something is different. Finally, we're not having. I remember back in 2019 when Pete hired Shoddy. No, not 2018, 2018, I think it was. When he hired Shoddy and Ken Norton after firing Darrell Bevel and Chris Richard. And I remember sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, he fired 2 coaches for the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it was really, really frustrating. It was so frustrating. But now knowing that, noticeable change is happening, there's difference in what we're seeing. We're bringing in Vic Fangio staff, guys who run different things than Pete. And we're also bringing in kind of molding our offense around a Rams kind of scheme. It's very nice to see. And I think Pete understands that the clock is
ticking.
He's 70 years old. Jody Allen probably said something to him like, listen, I'm not going to take one of these screw-ups again.
Yep.
I'm not going to take one of these screw-ups again. Because, I know that she feels from just the fan base alone that, kind of carrying Paul's legacy and not sitting back and watching the team that he owned get driven into the ground. I feel like she's going to really be really focused on building a good football team.
Yeah.
So kind of just getting under Pete's, but lighting that fire and saying, listen, I'm not going to take this again. We need to win games. And then you also have those reports of maybe, even if they're not super real, you have those reports of, is this Russ's last game with Pete? Does Russ want out? And I'm sure that there's that idea lingering in Pete's mind that Russ doesn't want out yet.
Yeah.
But Russ said he wants to win 3 more Super Bowls. That's his goal. You got to start winning games to prove that to him. And frankly, I don't think he's going to be traded. I don't think he wants to be traded. I'm just one of those people. But I do think that there is a very real chance that if we once again go 7-10, Russ is going to sit there like, dude, what the hell are we doing?
And then we're going to have to hear all offseason, oh, the Saints are interested. Oh, the Bears are interested. Oh, the Giants are interested.
We have a team and we have a foundation and we have money that can make us a winning team. And that's really what matters. And it just depends what we do with that. And I feel like Pete knows that last year didn't work. We need to change things up. And I feel like that's very important to recognize for this team.
I totally agree with what you're saying. Totally agree 100%. I think another really big point about hiring these young guys and hiring, these innovators, not necessarily like the veteran presence that Pete's been used to, is look at the NFL. Like, look at the coaches that are successful. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, literally in your division. You play these guys twice a year. They are not the veteran old guys who have been there, done that. They're the young, they're the hot shots, they're the bright minds. Literally, it seems like everybody who from the McVay tree. Honestly, if you were just on the
Shanahan tree, actually.
Shanahan tree, yeah.
It's Shanahan. It's ridiculous. Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, Coach Kyle Shanahan, who
McVay,
McDaniel, LaFleur,
Yeah.
McDaniel.
Yeah. Waldron, Shane, because McVay coached Waldron, so we got
Waldron off that tree. You get Kevin O'Connell off that tree.
Yep. You got
and you
Brandon
get Nathaniel Hackett off that tree.
Staley also.
You get Brandon Staley off that tree.
Raheem Morris now. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And so these are guys who, despite them being so young, they're very bright-minded and they have tons of respect around the league and they're considered very seriously. When was the last head coach to be hired off the Seahawks staff? Was it Dan Quinn in 2015?
Yes. Yeah. Had to be Dan Quinn. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Dan Quinn. So think about it.
Wow.
You're a team that's made the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years. Or no, 3 of the last 5, was it?
We missed it.
Because we missed it in 2017. So
17? No, I think we missed it in 16.
No, because we made it in 16. 16 was the year that we beat the Lions and lost to the Falcons. Wasn't the Panthers.
Falcons. Yeah,
that was the year 2017 was the year that we didn't make it. 2018 was the year that we lost to the Cowboys. 2019 was the year that we lost to the Packers. 2020 we lost to the Rams, and this year, of course, we didn't make it. So yeah,
right,
we're 3 of 5.
Right.
You would think that a team that makes the playoffs 3 of 5 years would at least have some interest in their coaching staff. I think Brian Schottenheimer had one interview with the Texans. That's it.
And then they watched the second half of last year and they just completely shut that down. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're talking about guys who it's important that, you know, if you're a good team, you want to get a tree going and you want to begin to build a serious coaching foundation, and you don't have that. And they're trying to make that. That's very significant.
Totally agree. And I think, honestly, sorry, just one last thing. I think the Seahawks have the talent. It's not like we're a team like Detroit or Jacksonville or the Jets.
Yeah, where it's a revamp. You know, it's not.
We don't have talent. We need to draft for 3 years, and then maybe in 5 years we'll make a wild card. We have Russell Wilson at our quarterback. We have 2 stud wide receivers. We have the best running back in the league.
When healthy,
the best running back in the league.
When not healthy, he's quite possibly the worst first-round pick in NFL history.
Right, but when he's healthy, he's the best. We need to revamp our offensive line. Yeah. And I think we need to bring in some infusion of coaching because, honestly, I don't think some people realize how much coaching can really help, right?
Yeah.
Our secondary, a lot of people are like, oh, we need to get new secondary. And I wouldn't mind that necessarily. But if Sean Desai can come in, Carl Scott can come in and coach up our secondary to their maximum potential, like, we're set. You know what I mean? So coaching is very, very, very important. And I think overall in the past 5, 6, 7 years, the Seahawks have lacked that. They've lacked really good like assistant coaches, defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. So to see the tides changing a little bit, or hopefully changing a little bit, is something that to me is really, really encouraging. Because again, you look at all the great teams in the league, they have great assistants, and then they go on to be head coaches. That really hasn't happened with the Seahawks. So hopefully we can get that going here pretty soon.
100%. I mean, I'm just really happy. But one thing I'm not happy about is Ed Donatel.
Man. Get that old ass man out of here, bro. Honestly, get out of here, bro.
That sucks, though. That really does suck. Because Ed Donatel, in the video that was seemingly blown up by Mike's computer and no longer exists, and just kind of fell into the fabric of another universe.
I think we were a little meaner to Pete Carroll in that video. I'm pretty sure he probably just hacked my computer and just deleted it.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was just like, no, it's Jermaine Effetti on the other side. Like, me this time.
Talking about the Gatorade commercial. He's like, all right, bro, that's it. We done.
That's it. We done. We're not doing this anymore. No, but Donatel, in that video, we gushed over him. We're like, that's the perfect role. Veteran, great safeties coach. This is it. And all of a sudden, it's like, Minnesota's on the phone.
Yeah, bro.
I'm like, what the hell?
I didn't even know he was a candidate for Minnesota. And then
Nobody knew. And then Jeremy Fowler's like, he's the finalist. He's the favorite.
Well, and then I get a notification. Oh yeah, he's the finalist. And then like 10 minutes later, oh yeah, he got hired. And then like 10 minutes later, it's like, oh yeah, Sean Desai is interviewing for Minnesota too. I was like, what happened? What,
bro? So when Ed Donatel got hired, I was in 5th period, which is a study hall, so I can just do whatever the hell I want.
Right.
So I'm on my phone. I'm in the library. I'm just chilling. And I get the notification. I'm like, that sucks. That really sucks. And then Corbin Smith is like, watch out for Sean Desai. Has relation to Ed Donatel and that Vic Fangio coaching staff just interviewed in Minnesota. Might want to stay. And I replied on Corbin's tweet. I said, Corbin, I think you're going to make me cry. I was so upset. I'm like, if we miss out on Ed Donatel and Sean Desai, what's the point?
Right.
Fortunately, we got Sean Desai. But if we didn't get Sean Desai and he just signed with the Vikings today, we'd be having a very different video.
We'd be crying right now. There would be tears flowing down our face. I will ask you
really
honestly.
Sucks.
I will ask you honestly. If you had to pick one, would you rather have Ed Donatel or Sean Desai? Because I would rather have Sean Desai. I could say that fairly unbiasedly, even though, like, obviously we just hired Sean, so I don't have a choice. But honestly, I would rather have Sean Desai. And that's probably because
I think if we're talking about bang for buck, I think Ed Donatel was a better value at assistant head coach, or not assistant head coach, like assistant defensive coach. I think that's a hell of a role for him. Kind of sucks that we couldn't get him there because it, like, for bang for buck, I think Ed Donatel is perfect for that role.
Yeah, he's really
I think Sean
overqualified.
Desai is a better coach. I think Sean Desai is a better coach. We really had to sell him a big time position on the staff, and a position that many may question if he's truly qualified for, which is kind of understandable because he's only 38 years old. But I love Sean Desai as a coach. I think both would have been great hires, and one is a great hire, and the other one went to Minnesota as the defensive coordinator. So you know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I mean, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but
honestly, watch the Vikings defense fall apart, and then Jamal Adams has 8 interceptions, 15 sacks, a couple touchdowns.
I want to see like Pete Carroll take a shot at like Donatel. If like, do we play the Vikings this year? We play them every year. We have to.
Yeah, every like we always wear our color rush.
Except last year we played Minnesota for the first time. And we lost. Do you remember that game?
I do not remember. I do not want to remember that game, but I do, unfortunately. All right, let me look up their opponents really quick just to see if we play the Vikings.
Anyways, I want a Pete Carroll diss track on Ed Donatel as soon as possible.
Some bars.
Yeah. Let's talk about
Let's talk about
the 2 jobs. Oh wow. Let's talk about the 2 jobs that are still open. And I'm actually going to refer to another Seattle Times article for this one because, well, I mean, the Seattle Times has been putting the team on their back recently, and I have this report here. So this is when they fired. This is the article from, I believe, Bob Condotta, or they're like, hey, they fired Mike Solari. They're reportedly promoting Andy Dickerson, and they're hiring Sean Desai. Later on in the article, it talks about how the Seahawks want to promote a D-line coach to fill the role of Clint Hurt, and they probably are looking to do house, which is what he said. He said he mentioned the names Keeley Kekuiwa.
Can't say I've
I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry that I did that to you.
That's gonna get clipped when our D-line is like top 5 in the NFL.
Kelly, it's like a Kelly.
What's the spelling?
Keli apostrophe I. So it's like Kalai, or it's like Kelly. Either way, Mr. K is
nice.
Is on staff as an offensive line coach. Hear this out: 29 years old.
Whoa! Did he play in the league? Did he have experience? He
played at Bowling Green.
Okay, so he was a D1. Okay.
And he said that the way it's going to work is that he and Andy Dickerson are going to be kind of a co-duo at O-line coach. They're going to kind of coach together in the same role. So good for him. Yeah, 29. He's 14 years older than me.
He's like not even 10 years older than me. That is crazy. That is very crazy. What are you doing, huh? I'm actually currently in community college. So who really wins?
Nobel Prize in 10 years.
Who really wins, right? I'm talking about the Seahawks on a podcast right now.
Here's what it says. The Seahawks figured to still hire defensive line coach to take over with Hurt promoted as defensive coordinator. The Seahawks have Damian Lewis, not Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis.
It's just Damian Lewis with like a fake mustache.
Yeah, as an assistant D-line coach. He played in the NFL as a defensive lineman for 9 years. He joined the staff last year. He seems like he would make sense to be promoted. But it also talks about the offensive job, which is really big. Austin Davis.
I told you Austin Davis.
When he left to be the OC at Auburn, they look to figure that job out, and they're trying to. Yeah, so here's what they're saying. I'm going to quote this. The Seahawks also lost quarterbacks coach Austin Davis when he left to become the offensive coordinator at Auburn, a job he has since resigned from. And the Seahawks may also make a hire to fill that job as well. They could reconfigure some responsibilities of those already on the fill it out instead. Brad Ick, who joined the staff in 2019 as assistant wide receivers coach, moved to an assistant quarterbacks coach last year, and Seattle has other assistants on staff with history of coaching quarterbacks, including Carl Smith, who was the team's quarterback coach from 2011 to 2017.
So he's just going to go back to being the quarterbacks coach, probably?
Probably. He was the quarterbacks coach for a lot of Russ's term.
Yeah, basically more than half, basically half his career.
2012 to 2017. Yeah, it's like 5 years. I mean, so
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? 17. Yeah, 6 years. Yeah,
6 years. And Carl Smith as well, who I think, did I call him Carl Scott earlier? I might call him Scott.
I think you did call him Carl Scott. I wasn't going to correct you.
Smith is the guy. Carl Smith. He's 73 years old.
Nice.
He was a former offensive coordinator for the Jags and Saints, and he's the associate head coach for the Seahawks. He might also, so he seems like a guy to be promoted to quarterbacks coach. That's kind of the last of the news we have for coaches.
Yeah, big day. Big couple days for coaching, honestly, for the
Russ
Seahawks.
said on Mad Dog Radio that he would like to retire as a Seahawk and hopes to win as a Seahawk.
Yeah, I know we did this last year where it was like, oh, is Russ getting traded? No, he's not.
And listen, I know that they're gonna find a way to say, oh, Russ, he said he wants to retire Seahawk, but he's meaning like one of those like one day.
Yeah, he's gonna come back.
Yeah, but he's going to the Giants. No, but
it's so dumb to hear the trade rumors literally Russ could be like, go Hawks, but he'll say it like slightly quieter than he normally does.
And I've seen like Washington, like I saw a trade proposal that was Taylor Heineke, 2 firsts and a third for Russ, and we get a third with Russ in the trade.
Gross. Get that out of
disgusting.
Did you see one that I think Bleacher Report tweeted where it was like the Bears and Seahawks, Russell Wilson for Justin Fields, Roquan, 2 firsts and a fourth for Russell Wilson and somebody and like a fifth or something? No, yeah, that don't make sense.
No, I think it was 1 first in the trade.
Yeah, I was like 1 first. Like,
but even if I'm like that still doesn't feel like enough. But
that's a loss for both teams, honestly.
It's a loss for both teams because the Bears get older.
Right, and why would the Seahawks need Roquan Smith?
And why would the Seahawks need Roquan Smith?
I don't know. Bleacher Report just
it's kind of yeah. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up. This was a long one.
Yes.
But it's a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll have some more videos on the way when the Seahawks kind of begin to fill in some more coaching positions, and especially it's February 11th, which means that 5 or 6 days from now, we will be a month away from free agency opening. It's a big time. Big time.
We got some guys. We'll definitely be updating you guys on free agents we should re-sign, free agents we should probably go get. There's going to be a whole lot of things. We'll have draft stuff coming soon. The Senior Bowl
draft stuff is the big one.
Yeah, draft stuff's coming out soon. So we got a lot to talk about. Stay tuned. You guys were awesome last offseason. We had a lot of growth, so we really appreciate you guys. And look forward to giving you more Seahawks content. So, I mean, that's it for me. If you got anything else to say.
Give this podcast 5 stars, whoever you listen to it.
Right.
Subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment on your thoughts about some of the hires, and we will see you in the next video. Peace out.
Peace out.